7:35.
That's a good one, eh?
Yeah.
What do you think?
There you go. Dan Hall's here along with Bob.
And Larry Kanasiak showing off war wounds across his chest.
But I'm out the door.
Hey, Dan Hall.
Morning. How you doing, Dale?
Good. And Bob's at mic number 2.
Yeah.
Busy weekend. Lots of things going on for Memorial Day.
It is.
Starting off statewide, we've got the River to River bicycle ride that starts on the 23rd and ends on the 27th. They start over in Fort Smith at the Arkansas River and ride to West Memphis.
Really?
To the Mississippi.
That's a good ride.
That's our biggest fundraiser for the year at the state level, the Department of Disabled American Veterans. The local community, of course, we've got the guys go out with the ROTC people and the high school kids that volunteer to help and put all the flags up on the square and get ready for Memorial Day. And they stay up till July, after the July 4th weekend. Of course, Monday we have our Memorial Day ceremonies on the square. It's DAV's turn to sponsor that. So
What time is it?
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock.
Yeah, and
On the square in Mountain Home.
in Mountain Home. Lieutenant Neal has already called me, and they're going to shut down the traffic so we can have our ceremony there without all the interference of the big trucks and fake brakes and what have you.
That's good. That's good.
A lot of things going on. You know, Memorial Day is kind of an interesting time, too. And Dale mentioned it, some of the schools out and what have you. It used to be, for a lot of people, it's the beginning of the summer vacation season.
Yep.
But the history of it, Memorial Day was originally Decoration Day that was started back in the Civil War days to decorate the graves of those lost in the Civil War on both sides. Over the years, it changed and became Memorial Day, where we honor all of our dead from all of our wars. And today, it's really more about honoring veterans in general. And I think a lot of the reason for that is that generations ago, you pretty much fought and were wounded and died, or you lived and came home. Today, men come home that spend the rest of their lives dealing with debilitating injuries and what have you, and many times eventually die from, for Vietnam, for example, we're still losing veterans as a result of Agent Orange and different things that are related to the war. So I spend most
those
of my...
who die of self-inflicted ways because
Absolutely.
of the war. So I mean,
22 suicides a day.
That can't be minimized.
Absolutely.
That they may not have died in the war, but they died because of the war.
Well, I'll tell you what, we live in a community that's pretty awesome. We spend a lot of time, and that's pretty much all that I do, is try to raise funds to keep those vans running that transport the veterans back and forth to Little Rock for their appointments, medical appointments. And by the way, in December, we reached a milestone. Volunteer drivers drove those vans throughout the state 10 million miles.
Wow.
We hit
Wow.
in December.
Those are all volunteers. And somebody, there's people that move here all the time, and we kind of forget that there's a constant influx, and all these homes that sold were new people coming into the area in general. And what if somebody wanted to volunteer and to help with some of this, Dan? What would they do?
They could call me at 421-2322, and I can hook them up with what it is. If they want to be a van driver, there's a process they have to go through, go down to Little Rock to VA and get a physical and background check and so on. Of course, things have changed. When we started that thing, it was an old used van loaned to a couple of veterans by the county judge.
There you go.
Yeah, that was 27 years ago, and that now has become a statewide system with 18 vans leaving from 17 different starting points throughout the state. And, of course, we raised the money to buy these vans locally. Our cost this year on replacing a van is $17,600. That's our share. And then the balance comes from the Columbia Trust, which is a trust that's managed by the National Disabled American Veterans Organization. And then Ford Motor Company, of course, reduces the price. So it's a lot
See, but
involved.
people need to know
So
that.
doesn't
People
Ford
need
Motor
to know
Company-
that. They really do.
Yeah, I
mean,
think doesn't Ford give you a break on that?
Absolutely,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Ford Motor Company gives us. They usually give us one van a year nationally, and then they reduce the price quite a bit.
of the other bands for
the
the
other
other
band,
areas that.
But we run two out of Mountain Home, so and of course now when we get the new one, VA gives us back the one we loaned them for last 2 years, and we sell that locally, get anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000 for it,
Well, that's
and
good.
that goes back toward that 17,000 to buy the new one.
That's
Weren't
good.
we
Good.
in Mountain View last November? Didn't they have a new van?
Yes, that van was transferred up from Hot Springs Village where it was no longer needed, and we moved that up to Mountain View. They're operating it out of there to help the Batesville side. But it's a full-time thing. Like I say, all that we get is raised here locally, and the community's been so good about helping veterans. Just last week, Lois Drake, representing the White River Lions Club, ended up with a electric wheelchair worth about $8,000 that they wanted to make sure a veteran got it. So they brought it in and donated
Great.
it.
Great. Yeah.
A man out in Lakeview several weeks ago called me, retired dentist, liked to tinker with things, had a huge HO gauge trading set and what have you. No place to set it up when he moved here. So he wanted to do something to help veterans, so he donated all of these HO gauge trains and the track and the turntables and engines and what have you, and some vintage model cars, Corvettes and what have you, that somebody might be interested in. I'm not sure quite yet how I'm going to get rid of these things for some cash to help the van fund,
Yeah.
but if anybody's interested in these HO gauge trains,
Oh,
there's
that'd be so
about-
much fun. I
about
love
6 boxes of them. Like
Wow.
the turntables, the trestles, the tracks, the engines and cars. It's quite a collection.
that'd be so much fun.
I think he had it on a elevated platform
Oh,
that
I'm
took
sure.
up 2 4x8 sheets of plywood.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can see how big that was.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see that to go to somebody who would build on
It would be for
enjoy
a
it
good
with it.
cause. I mean, it would
Sure.
be sure.
And of course, these vintage Corvette models still in the boxes. If anybody's interested in those, just give me a call. 421.
Are they the older style cast?
No, these are the put together in paint type
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Still in boxes. So.
Wow.
We get things like that periodically. That then you have to find out how am I going to
Right.
best.
What's the best
You know,
use?
the man wanted to help veterans. How can
highest
I use
best
this?
use for this? Sure.
Yeah, so-
Sure.
There's an awful lot going on. Of course, I'm always involved with the VA. That's part of our mission. And since the local DAV basically does 2 main things. We operate the van, the transportation system, and we assist veterans in obtaining the benefits that they're entitled to, which is getting more and more complicated. Filing claims takes 5 and 6 years before many of them are handled.
Yeah.
The VA is in turmoil. Of course, I met the new secretary last summer, right after he was appointed, and he talked a good show, and we were going to fix all these problems. To my knowledge, right now, 1 person was fired. 1.
Yeah, accountability doesn't seem to be a real big thing with this whole
Yeah,
this
they
whole
had-
administration. The accountability is like doesn't
They
exist.
had hundreds of people falsifying records, and the problem with the
Well, the credit cards and spending
Yeah,
the money.
well,
and
that was another
whatever.
one.
It was just this accumulation.
one of the things they were going to do to fix that was give the veterans choice. So they appropriated $13 billion to put this veterans choice thing in place, which meant they sent all of the veterans, including me, this little card, and I'm not even eligible. And the vast majority of veterans that got this card aren't even eligible for the Veterans Choice Program.
I never got that. I never got any.
You didn't get one?
No,
Wow.
no.
Well,
But that's okay.
it's one of those things that $13 billion would have been better spent to hire more medical staff
Yeah.
in order to not have the backlog waiting
Well,
for treatment.
and that's the thing. I mean, they spend the money. The money
Yeah.
is being spent. It's just not being spent well and well to help the veterans that need it, and not just those that need it the most, but most need some. You know,
Yeah, and
some
they
help
get
is
into numbers games all the time. You know, the DEA, a couple months back, put all the opioid pain medications on a Schedule II, which compounded the problem for, chronic
How many
pain
you
is a
could get.
big issue with veterans.
Yeah.
And they finally find something that does help. Well, it has some issues, but instead of dealing with those issues, they make these blanket policies. We're going to try to take everybody else. So I was at one of these management advisory council meetings that I attend every quarter down at VA, and they had sent out this bulletin and how proud they were that they took 91,600 veterans off of opioids. And I said, well, I'm impressed with your number, but that doesn't tell me anything. What does that mean? Does that mean you had 91,600 veterans taking opioids that didn't need them in the first place?
Yeah, right. That's the
Or
deal.
does that mean you found something else that would solve the problem? Or did you just take them off of their chronic pain meds? What does this mean?
Yeah, right.
And I got kind of a hem-haul answer about how we're trying to find other
How did that
methods.
help the veteran?
Yeah,
right.
we're going to use acupuncture and what have you. I guess sticking me in the eye with a needle might make my back pain go away.
That's right. You wouldn't even think about it.
But I'm not impressed with their numbers. What I'm impressed with is what are you doing for this veteran sitting here in Mountain Home today who needs help?
Exactly.
That's the issue.
Exactly.
Man,
Because you're
the
paying a
gentleman
bunch
down
of
in-
people that are just sitting there coming up with numbers. That's their job. They're not there to solve any problems. It's just to come up with numbers. That's what you
You
get
know,
in
the-
bureaucracies.
The veteran in Dolph, Arkansas, the sergeant down there, 6 years trying to get a powered wheelchair.
Yeah.
The bureaucratic red tape was unbelievable.
Right.
Hey, let's go ahead and take a quick break. That'll give us a little bit more time to close out the show. Be right back. 7:50 on this Friday, closing out the program. We got Dan Hall here and Bob Zadora. Dan, you got some more information for us?
Yeah, you mentioned how people can help, and of course we're always we're funded by grassroots people at $10,
this isn't
$25.
You're not a government program.
No.
People need to understand.
We were
that.
out at the Rand Ranch on Saturday for the veterans picnic that Judy Fagan has been real good about putting on, and I gave a Navy cup to a veteran a little while ago. He said, "Well, I'm supposed to give a donation for that," and I said, "No, Bob, I just gave it." He said, "Well, let me help." So he gave me a $10 bill.
There you go. There you go.
Anyway, you can reach me, Dan Hall, at 421-2322. We're always in need of drivers for these vans. We're in need of people that help coordinate and make the manifest. And the way that works is a veteran calls in, he leaves his information on the answer machine. Every day, somebody has to go in there and take that information, return the call, make sure that the veteran is scheduled for the time and date that he has an appointment, and put that on the manifest for that particular day. Those vans run 5 days a week out of Mountain Home here.
Yeah.
A driver, he gets really compensated for his 11-hour day. He gets a free lunch down there at the VA.
At the VA.
At the VA.
So he gets hospital food.
Yeah, it's a commitment. I'll tell you what. And
Well,
we're
it
always
is.
looking for drivers because we try not to burn these guys out by running them too many days a month.
Sure.
It's a big
Sure.
it's a big deal to take
The drive to
responsibility.
Little Rock is not the easiest drive in the world.
You got two stops there in Little Rock, one at McClellan and one over at Fort Roots. You got 6 or 8 stops on the way that you're looking to pick up
Because
veterans.
it's a bus route. I mean,
Yeah,
that,
because we
that's what
pick
it
them
is.
up in Mountain Home, Gassville, Flippin, Yellville, Marshall, all the way down to Little Rock, where we have. So it's a big commitment for a driver. And they are really
Truly
appreciated.
appreciate.
I can't help but comment, though, on the fact earlier you had some information. Sometimes it takes 6 years to get a claim filed. That's ridiculous.
Well,
now,
it's
the
even-
thing is, our people in Washington know about this.
Oh yeah,
It's like taking the car to the mechanic and opening the hood and having 3 mechanics walk around to say, we know what the problem is. We don't take time to fix it. Why not?
well, because it's a huge problem, and my wife and I and Charles Stake from Heber Springs were back in February at the midwinter legislative conferences, and we met with all of the senators and congressmen that sit on these committees. And when you represent 1.6 million disabled American veterans, they see you.
Oh, yeah.
And the ones that sit on those committees are aware and they are tuned in. What we really need is a public push to all of our representatives to fix this VA problem. It's underfunded, poorly managed. Veterans are left hanging out to dry. when they're making false lists to show that a veteran's getting an appointment within 60 days,
Right,
that's
right.
kind of absurd.
Yeah. And no accountability. Really.
And no
That's the whole
accountability,
thing. I mean, because why would you improve if it's like, oh, okay, I got caught, but nobody cares, so we'll just keep going.
And to say, well, we're improving it, that's not the answer. The answer is you
Fix
need to
it.
Show me.
fire people
Well, you
who
need to
are
show me you're
incompetent
improving
and
it.
fix it.
Exactly.
If you went in with a disability, Dan Hall, and said, I have this problem, Doc, what'd you say? Well, you've got this as you're permanently disabled. Okay, stamp the stupid paper, send it to Washington, and in 10 days you should.
Takes a
shouldn't-
minimum
but
of
it's
2
yeah,
years
that-
to get the claim heard the first time. They will almost always, on many things, deny it.
2
Sure.
years.
They'll deny
Sure.
it the first time and ask you to go back to, why don't you file for a re-evaluation? You do that, that's 2 more years, and you deny it again, and then you have to go to the BVA, the Board of Veterans Appeals, who will overturn them.
Yeah.
But you've got 6 years invested. I have cases where there's a decade and a half of BVA precedents that say this is what they're supposed to be doing, and they're not doing it. They're ignoring the precedents and letting the veteran sit there and stew for 6 years. Maybe they hope he'll die and go away. I don't know. But it's just atrocious how some of it's working.
Yeah. The bureaucracy of that is just, and that's really, like
To
I
me,
said,
it's a
the
slap in
money's
the face
the
to
money's
veterans.
there. It's just it's being so poorly spent because of all of these type of things that you're making them do. All of these
yeah.
committees and all of these different forms and these different
To
offices
a
and
degree,
everything.
some of this is almost an ambush. A veteran goes in there with a hearing problem because he served in combat and next to mortars and jet aircraft
Sure.
and what have you, and they ask him, have you ever run a lawnmower?
Yeah, what's a lawnmower? 92 dB?
well,
Maybe?
88, you know,
yeah, because
yeah.
I went and I had my
What's
ears
a
done.
mortar shell?
It's an
300?
ambush.
Had some years ago, and that's what the doctor told me. There was too many firefights, and it was like, okay, I mean, it's not. I'm not going to die. And Matt Taylor does a great job of, keeping an eye on my levels and stuff. But it's just that's what it is.
Yeah.
There's
Anyway.
really no excuse for that.
Final 40 seconds, gentlemen. Dan?
One more time, it's Dan Hall, 421-2322. If you can assist with being a driver or coordinating the list of veterans who...
Or just in
need
general, if you're thinking
transportation.
that there's something you could do to help, give Dan a call and see where you fit into the grand scheme of things.
If you just want to kick in a few dollars to help purchase the new vans every year,
There you
I'll
go.
give you an address that you can send it to. It's Post Office Box 902, Mountain Home, Arkansas, 72654.
There you go.
And that's
Bob,
there you go.
Disabled American Veterans.
Great.
Good job. Your phone number, Bob?
The phone number is 870-405-0793. Z-Team at Century 21 Lemac Real Estate for all your real estate needs.
You bet. That wraps it up. Well, Bob's going to be here on Monday. Hopefully, we're trying to get the governor to call in and discuss the special session.
There you go. We'll see what happens.
All right. We'll see you on Monday.
Tell Honey, thank